in December last year, we got asked by the NFL if we can put together a national team. And we were like, yeah, of course. Like, we've already got quite a couple of players. We put together a team. And for me, it was just so surreal to actually see, that there's so much interest in the whole of the continent, not just South Africa. We try to build a bit of a family. It's I feel like a lot of the time when you enter a new sport or whatever, you kind of feel like you're out of place in a way. So we try to welcome everyone who comes. And I mean, that's what's nice about American football is there's a position for everybody size.
Let's face it, life is complicated, and so is the YouTube algorithm. We put so much effort into each of these episodes, and I honestly love what I do. And if you could do the smallest favor for me, it'll be quicker than making a cup of coffee. Just hit that subscribe button or like and follow on the audio channels. Thank you so much. I read a stat that out of the 100 most watched TV broadcasts in America, 93 of them were NFL games.
Sheesh.
So that obviously just shows you how massive American football is in the States. How did you take that concept from America and think American football can work in South Africa?
So, yeah, I mean, in South Africa, it was here in the 90s. It was there was a couple of teams. I think it was like the Wits Vikings and that sort of thing. Like more university teams. But yeah, I guess when I played in Australia and I moved back to South Africa, I noticed kind of like let's call it a gap, in the market, I guess you could say. And yeah, I just thought because South Africans already love, contact football or, just in general, South Africans are pretty sporty. It's something that I love and something that I'm, truly passionate about. So I just thought, why not carry on with what I'm doing? And so, yeah, I guess it took off quite well because like you said, it's so big around the world. And I mean, you'd be surprised how many South Africans actually watch American football. So, yeah, I just played with the ball. Yeah, just kept it going.
So obviously in South Africa, I mean, I think anyone can say this, that rugby is massive in South Africa. The whole of South Africa gets behind the Springboks anytime they play. Even when it's the smaller teams. And you actually started before American football. You started as a rugby player, is that right?
Yeah, so look, I still do love my rugby. I mean, being South African, you have to love your rugby. So, it's like a part of life, to be honest. But yeah, I guess, when I came back, I did play for Pirates for a little while, local club. And yeah, I kind of feel like I didn't fit in as much anymore because I was playing so much football when I was living in Australia. So, when I came back, I really wanted to get back into it again. And yeah, I just contacted Guda in South Africa. And there were only honestly like 3 or 4 guys at the training sessions. It was tiny. So yeah, I just kind of used that to, at least, get my fix on football. And from there, I was just like, this needs to grow. Like, there's guys in Cape Town that are interested. There's guys in KZN. So, yeah, I kind of made contact with some guys in Cape Town as well. Made like a bit of a friendship group. They would come up for sessions. And, yeah, from there, started posting on social media, hosting training clinics at different areas like Pretoria, Joburg. We went down to Cape Town. They have their training sessions, and from there, just from promoting it grew quite a bit.
But before that,
Yeah.
So you played rugby in Australia, and you were scouted by American football scouts.
Yeah, so I was trialing out for like the junior Waratahs. I mean, I was still quite young. I was about 14 years old, and yeah, then I was trialing out for the team, didn't make it. I think they took like, let's say 35 or 40 players. And I was like a 45th pick, 46th pick, so I was kind of late. I would have been a reserve of a reserve type of thing. And there were gridiron scouts at the game. So a couple of the guys and even some of my mates were playing it. They asked me to come down and just try it out. So yeah, about after 2 months of trialing out, or playing, should I say, um, I got asked to play for like the New South Wales Wolverines, which is like the Waratahs version, but in American football. So I was like, okay, wow, like, I'm actually pretty decent at this game. Like, let me keep playing. And then, yeah, like 2 years later, I got asked to play for the Australian national side. So, yeah, in 2016, we went to China for the World Cup, the IFAF World Cup. And yeah, I mean, look, we were also in Australia. It was still quite a new sport then. I think it had only been around for about 5 or 6 years by then. So yeah, I mean, it was something that I really wanted to get into. And yeah, so after I made the Aussie team, my goal was to go to America and play college football. But yeah, I actually landed up tearing my ACL in one of the like semi-final games for like my local club. So that set me back a good 12 months. You can't normally run or play any sport for a good 12 months once you do your ACL. So yeah, that was hard on me, mentally as well. Um, so I came back to South Africa for a holiday and yeah, I got offered a job working for a medical company. And I just thought, you know what, let me try it out for this year, get some experience behind my name, build my CV up a little bit. And then, yeah, actually landed up wanting to stay in South Africa. And during that time, I obviously, wanted to play American football again. So that's pretty much how it all started for me, at least.
So you obviously had experience now as an American footballer,
Yeah.
but now it's a completely new concept to most South Africans. How did you get people on board to a completely foreign sport?
I think, there's also that help with, TV and movies. Like everyone's seen an American football movie or, some sort of high school American football movie. So I think that helps quite a bit. Everyone's interested in it. They want to put on the pads, want to put on the helmets.
The
So
cheerleader and the quarterback. I mean,
exactly, yeah.
yeah, even as South Africans, you see those movies all the time. It looks
Yeah.
like the dream if you lived in America to be an American footballer.
Yeah. So that helped a lot. And like I said, the whole contact part of it, South Africans love, a good hit in rugby and that sort of thing, where in American football, I mean, there's not really such thing as a high tackle. I mean, you can't put your shoulder into someone's head, but you can hit someone quite hard with those shoulder pads and helmets on. So that also was, I think, a big interest for everyone. But also, it's quite a technical game. I mean, we got these huge playbooks that you have to learn. Some teams have, like, when I played for the South African national team, we had 50 plays in the team. So it's also you have to be quite a smart player or a smart person to be able to play as well. Not necessarily all the time, but most positions like quarterback, for example, you got to know everyone's position, everyone's, all the whole playbook, where everyone's going to be on the field, what the defense is doing. So it's quite a technical game. So I think that also for some people, took quite a bit of an interest. Or they took an interest in that. So
What are some of the misconceptions about American football?
I think the misconceptions would be probably that, it's not really better than rugby, I guess, for South Africans. Like, a lot of people say, oh, because you're wearing the shoulder pads and helmet, like, oh, that's like a sissy's game, or you know what I'm saying? But really, at the same time, man, like, I dislocated my shoulder at the end of last season. And all I did was literally just try bounce someone. You know what I mean? So it's a tough game. You have to really train for it. You have to condition your body for some of the hits. I mean, not so much in the amateur league, but when you start getting into the bigger leagues, like you really got to train to get there.
And I'm sure if you get hit with the helmet on, it's still affects you, you know, like
Yeah.
probably like vibrates your whole head when you get hit in the head.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, even just running with a helmet on, you have to look back, and normally it's covering quite a bit of your face. So you really got to turn your neck back to actually be able to see the ball coming. And then you still got someone right there in your face, because it's normally like man coverage. So someone's like marking you the whole time. You don't really get this chance to run freely with the ball. So you got to have your head on the swivel, because you can hit anyone on the field. I mean, you don't have to hit just the guy with the ball. Like, you can block someone from tackling another player. So, yeah, I mean, it's busy on the field, man. It's very busy. And I think that's also why I enjoy it so much, is the fact that, I'm always busy. It's constantly different. Like, even if you run the same play, the defense will pick up on it, and they'll like move someone into that position, maybe where you threw the ball the last, like a route that you ran or something like that. So.
Ever thought you'd hear the words American football and South Africa in the same sentence? It's happening, and Gridiron South Africa is making it real. They're bringing the energy, teamwork, and adrenaline of American football to local fields across the country, creating a community where anyone can get involved. Whether you've never thrown a football before, or you've been searching for something new to challenge yourself, this is your chance to step outside your comfort zone and be part of something different. It's fast, it's competitive, and it's growing. With South Africa now on the path to compete in flag football at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. And here's the big one. In 2026, the Baltimore Rams from the USA will be flying in to take on the Gridiron RSA All-Stars in a historic international matchup right here at home. So what are you waiting for? Visit Gridiron South Africa online today, grab a football, and come be part of the movement that's changing the game. What was your first training session like?
It was intense. Like, we actually had a couple of coaches in Australia who were, sort of played at that higher level. And in America, like, football's serious, man. Like, even at the small little juniors, like, there's no laughing at training. There's, like, when I blow this whistle, you do this type of thing. So it was quite intense for me, just to adjust from rugby, where it's like, everyone's joking around. Obviously you get serious while you play, but then after it's like people are laughing and whatever else. When American football is not like that, it's very serious. Once you got your helmet on, it's like game. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was for me what was, so different, I guess.
Now compare that to when you had your first training session in South Africa. How can you explain the contrast?
Yeah, so look, when I first joined, I was trying to prove a point to some of the guys here. Like, I'm not just this guy who's all talk. Like, I actually did play at a decent level. I know what's going on. So I was kind of trying to prove myself a little bit. But yeah, at the same time, I could also see that, it wasn't so popular here, and these guys haven't played before. So I kind of moved out of that, trying to show what I've got, and more like, help these guys learn how to properly stand when you start before the ball's, hot. And yeah, I guess that's what I kind of focused on from there onwards. Obviously it was very small, and I had to try my best to grow this as much as possible. So the only way to really go was, sort of as a teaching role or coaching role. As much as I'm still playing as a player, I'm kind of like a player's coach as well.
So you almost took on that leadership role as soon as, you had your injury, you came back and you thought, okay, well, I can still play, but my main goal is to coach.
Yeah. So at the start as well, because I took that year off, I was also quite unfit. Like, I'd run like two or three routes and I'd be like so out of breath. So I would like stand on the side and be like, no, you can run a couple of more, like, you need to practice. But no, it's just, yeah, man. I also enjoyed coaching. I've had a couple of, when I was younger, a couple of juniors rugby teams that I helped out with. So it wasn't only focused just on football. I do enjoy coaching in general. I mean, I'd love to, quit my 9 to 5 to be like a sports coach, but it's just not, feasible for me, I guess.
Things take time.
Yeah.
And especially when it's something that you're passionate about that hasn't been done before. I think people are very hesitant to try something for the first time. And I can speak for myself. I'm also a little afraid of the unknown sometimes. And uncertainty can cause a little bit of anxiety. And I'm sure there were a lot of people who had a little bit of hesitancy in the beginning. How did you overcome that and start to get people to think a little bit differently about American football?
Yeah, so that's also one thing that I like, try to promote with the American football is step outside of your comfort zone. If you a person who's been playing rugby since you were 5 years old, now you're, let's say, 18 to 25 or whatever your age is, come and try it out. Come try something new. Step out of your comfort zone, and just enjoy what you can. If you really don't like it after your first training session, then at least you can say you've tried it out. But I think yeah, when it's a motivation thing as well. We want to try motivate the people who come to enjoy the sport, but also it's we try to build a bit of a family. It's I feel like a lot of the time when you enter a new sport or whatever, you kind of feel like you're out of place in a way. So we try to welcome everyone who comes, and I mean that's what's nice about American football is there's a position for everybody size. You can weigh 45 kilos and be slow even, and there's a position for you, like you can play somewhere on defense if that's the case. If you don't like hitting, there's somewhere on offense. Or you can weigh 150 kilos and you're playing O-line to protect the quarterback who's got these huge D linemen running at him while he's throwing the ball. So yeah, I guess that's also what helps is having that sort of family, but also it being so broad for everyone to join. So
What's the most rewarding part?
for me, to be honest, with my juniors team, it's very fulfilling and rewarding to have these young kids, come down, try it out. They give their everything on the field, and you can just see how much they enjoy it. And at the juniors level, we don't play tackle. We mainly play flag football. So that's pretty much exactly the same as American football. It's just tackle football, but it's just a lot faster paced and non-contact. So you don't actually tackle anyone. You got these flags on your waist, and you just run the play as normal. And then once someone's caught the ball, you just pull their flag, and that will count as a tackle type of thing. So, seeing these young kids, some of them come from really, bad homes, and it's just their release as well. And you just see how much they enjoy it. And obviously, they see on TV how some of their idols are like celebrating, dancing after a touchdown. You see them do that, and, it's very heartwarming. So, yeah, that's what I'd say.
Sport has an amazing way of bringing people close together.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's what I love about team sports. It's you build that family vibe. And even with my team personally, the Harlequins, all of the guys you see at training, they're starting to become more like a brotherhood or even like a sisterhood. We got some girls in our team as well. So football is also very inclusive. So
And when you started, surely you were a little low on equipment and stuff like that. How did you navigate that?
yeah, so that was very difficult. I mean, a new American football helmets, it can cost anywhere from 1,000 rand to 5,000 rand, even more. So getting the gear was very difficult. I mean, I think when I first arrived, I was one of the only people in South Africa with the pads and helmet. So, that was also like an eye opener for me. But yeah, so I've got some connections in America, guys who are playing college football. Obviously I knew quite a couple of guys that I was playing with in Australia that actually made it into college. So chatted to them, see if they could maybe, donate some old helmets and that sort of thing. And yeah, we got our first like 12 helmets, and yeah, we didn't even have chin straps then yet. Like the helmets just came raw, you know. So we were just putting them on, and guys were just hitting into each other for the fun of it, just to feel what it's like to have a helmet on, you know. So we pretty much grew from there. Also got another donation from another college, which gave us like 100 pads. So that was nice, you know. At least now we can put 100 players on the field, and also got some helmets with that. Managed to find a supplier as well in Europe, that R Sports. He's helped us out quite a bit, you know, with some helmets and that sort of thing. So yeah, and I mean, recently I found a lot of online websites where you can get some good gear, so at a decent price, you know. So yeah, it's been difficult, but it's an expensive sport, and I've always understood that, you know, even from when I first started playing. So that's the only like big downside about it, is actually getting that gear. But at the same time, that's what's nice about flag football, is you really don't need much besides a ball and a belt of flags on. So if there is, you know, any sort of community, or, you know, anyone who wants to start a team, it doesn't really take much just to be able to play. You know, obviously if you want to play tackle, it's a whole different story, but flag football is very easy to start up.
And you guys actually competed in an African flag event in Cairo this year. How was that?
Yeah. No, so that was also, it brought back a lot of memories, you know, playing at that high level. But in December last year, we got asked by the NFL if we can put together a national team. And we were like, yeah, of course. Like, you know, we've already got quite a couple of players. You know, whether they're going to be the best athletes that we have available is a different story, but it is possible to put together a team. So that was for flag football. Obviously, that's what they're trying to really push in Africa at the moment, is the flag football side of things, due to the price of gear and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, we got asked. We put together a team. We had a tryouts in Joburg, Davao, and Cape Town. And yeah, we put together. It's only an 11-man team, so it's, you know, not a huge team, but yeah, we put together a team, went there, and for me, it was just so surreal to actually see, you know, that there's so much interest in the whole of the continent, not just South Africa, you know. And yeah, we did pretty well, I must say, for the first time competing on an international level. A lot of the African countries play against each other, so they got that experience. But for us, yeah, it was tough at the start, you know, getting used to the rules. Obviously, our refs aren't as experienced as some of the other guys, but yeah, I think it was definitely, you know, something to remember. And you know, some of the guys on the team hadn't even been overseas before, so for them, it was obviously, you know, a whole new life opportunity that's opened up, you know. So
How did you find those players to put together a team? Because I remember we had a coffee earlier this week, and you told me that your first training session that you went to, it was you, the coach, and one other person.
yes.
You know, so going from that, how did you now build a league and start getting teams together so that you could, you know, get contacted by the NFL and eventually take a team to Cairo?
So yeah, I mean, it was, you know, it was a long, long stretch. Like we started trying to get, you know, a team together initially in 2021, because we got contacted by another American team, the Baltimore Rams, to actually go to America and play. So it was kind of like a goal of ours to try and put together a 45-man squad, because that's normally the size of an American football tackle team. So already then we were like recruiting, you know, calling out mates from rugby, from gym, from wherever you possibly can, just to come down and try it out. So I think that also helped quite a bit, you know, getting the numbers up. And from there, we hosted a couple of friendly games. We played in another league, and yeah, I guess from there, two or three guys in my team that I had actually wanted to branch out into their areas, because they were traveling so far to come and play for the Harlequins. So the next year we decided, why not branch out a bit more? And from there, just, kept kind of branching out. So, the more people you reach, obviously, the bigger the team's going to get. So, but it was very difficult, converting people from rugby to American football's, not easy. And we don't even intend most of the time to convert people. We're just saying, like, if you can come down and play, join us, please.
So how many teams do you have now compared to when you started? Obviously, you didn't
Yeah.
have a team.
So currently there's, I think, 3 or 4 in Cape Town. There's 2 in the Vaal and 2 in Joburg. And then there's 1 in Pretoria, but this season coming, there's going to be a second team. So in total, let's call it, 15 in total. I mean, there is 1 or 2 smaller teams. But obviously in juniors as well, that's really where we, struck gold, I guess you could say, is, having that grassroots level. I think in total, there's about, yeah, another 15 teams in juniors. So, yeah, our numbers are growing. And, all of these kids playing now, we have an under 14s league and an under 17. So it's 10 to 14 and 15 to 17. So, all of these guys in that sort of 15 to 17 range are going to come up through the ranks eventually and join us in the men's league. So, yeah, it's split up in two different leagues. So we have YAFL, which is Youth American Flag Football League. And then we have SAAFL, which is South African American Football League, which is obviously tackle.
And now flag football was introduced to the 2028 Olympics.
Yeah, so that's a big goal of ours, is to try to get a team there. Unfortunately, we didn't qualify for the World Games next year, or the World Championship next year in Germany. Or no, maybe Belgium, not too sure where. But yeah, so unfortunately we didn't make that. Nigeria made the cut for that. They won the whole championship. But yeah, so the goal is after that is to host another Africa Flag Football Championship. And that's kind of what we're working towards. Because I'm sure if we win that, it will be almost like an automatic qualifying into the 2028 Olympics. So that's really what our goal is at the moment, is to get there. But that being said, also in February, we have an American team, the Baltimore Rams, after, not being able to go and play there due to the price of visas and that sort of thing. We've now decided that we're going to host them here in South Africa. So we're busy raising funds to bring them here in February. We're busy putting together a men's all-star team. So we can't call ourselves a national team just yet because we don't have SASCOC recognition. But yeah, the goal is to put together like an all-star team for Greta in South Africa and play against these guys. But while they're here, we're also going to host 2 or 3 training clinics with them, so that guys who maybe aren't part of the all-star team still get that opportunity to get coached by an American coach. It's a lot different than being coached by South African coaches. These guys have been doing it their whole life. They know all the ins and outs of football. So yeah.
What do you need to get there?
To get there, I mean, obviously it's going to cost quite a bit to bring them over. I mean, I think just the deposit itself for 45 people from America to come is like 250,000 Rand. So it is quite expensive. But also we want to try and get like a nice stadium. So we're in contact with a couple of companies who, host events and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, the goal is to host it at Ellis Park Stadium. Whether it happens or not, I think all depends on, Ticket Pro and what they have to offer. So yeah, I mean, the goal initially, I think the goal number is about 1 million Rand. So yeah, it's a lot of money. But I think, with some help and some sponsors on board, we're trying to look at some big companies as well to help out. So, and it's a growing sport, man. It's something to get in now as a sponsor would be very smart, in my opinion. Get in early and reap the rewards later on.
Yeah, and I think it just comes down to, like we said earlier, that hesitancy, and all it takes is one person to jump on board, and all the rest of the sponsors or people that could have got involved go, damn, I should have just
Exactly. Yeah.
taken the leap.
Yeah. And I feel like like just in general, we do have some guys who help out quite a bit, out of their own pocket. I mean, even myself, we're paying for a lot of the gear. We do have a couple of sponsors, like we had Equele Water sponsor some waters, but it's not like a big sponsor, that was obviously just for a sports hydration drink type of thing. So the goal is to get someone on board who's willing to stay with us, because that's also one thing I believe is like, being loyal to a sponsor. Like if someone's going to help you out, you want to carry them for the rest of the way,
Hmm. You mentioned earlier your job outside
Yeah.
of American football, and I know you've been doing this for quite a while, and I've always wanted to chat about it with you. So I think this is quite a cool opportunity. Um, what does your day to day look like off the field?
Yeah, so believe it or not, so I work in the medical field, and it's very, very busy. Especially here in South Africa, there's a shortage of, nurses and doctors and that sort of thing with the amount of population that we have. So what I do is I am a clinical support representative for Vascumed. What I do is I sell medical devices that treat any sort of vascular disease or any sort of vascular trauma. So often what happens is I'll wake up in the morning, I'll try to go to gym or something like that, and then I'll hit theatre straight away. So surgeons obviously consult with the patient, and then if they need to operate, they put them on a list, and they send us the list, and we have to see on that list what is the operations for the day. And we have products that obviously help those surgeons operate on their patients. So I'm standing in theater while the surgeon's operating, and we have products to treat the patient. So, something as simple as if you have diabetes, normally a patient will be put on a dialysis machine. And what that is it's pretty much a machine that functions as your kidneys. So it cleans the blood in your body. So a lot of the time, maybe someone who's, not so healthy, they only have maybe 2 weeks of being able to not go on dialysis, sometimes even one day. So we have products that you put in your arm so that the machine can actually puncture into that, we call it a graft. Into that graft, it pulls blood out of your body, goes through the machine, cleans it, and then gets put back into your body. That's kind of like our biggest chunk of work. But that being said as well, anyone who gets shot, stabbed, or in a car accident, if any of your arteries are damaged in that case, we have products that can also treat that as well. So let's say you get shot in the leg, now it's hit your main artery in your femoral. You only got a couple of hours until you bleed out, technically. So if you don't stop that bleeding, some patients just don't make it. So it's a very intense job that I have, but also I love being on my toes, so it keeps me busy. But yeah, some days we work some crazy hours. I'll start 8 a.m. and we'll finish 6 a.m. the next day, just simply operating on patients. So a good like 22-hour day sometimes. But yeah, then some days is like yesterday, we only had like, 2 or 3 patients. So it comes and goes. But always got to be available. It's almost like being a paramedic in a way. If a surgeon calls, there's been a car accident, someone's thoracic aorta has got an aneurysm, like that aneurysm can pop at any time, and then you really don't have long to live, maybe 20 minutes max, max, max. So, sometimes if that's controllable, they'll call me at 3 a.m., on a Friday night or whatever. Please come in, like we need to operate. So, yeah, it's an intense job, but I love it.
How do you handle that pressure?
To be honest, at the start, it was very difficult. The first 2 years of being a rep, yeah, I didn't cope too well, to be honest. And I also wasn't in like the best mental state. But I guess that's where football comes in. As soon as I put that shoulder pads and helmet on, like, I can forget about the rest of the world. I'm just focused on the game. And yeah, kind of that's my release and that's my coping mechanism is using American football. So yeah.
So a lot of people that have a 9 to 5 can go home and say, after 5 o'clock, I'm not answering my emails. Don't call me.
Yeah.
I think it's becoming a little bit more difficult to do that these days.
Yeah.
Um, but more than anyone else, you are you so relied upon. You have to have your phone on all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you find it quite difficult to relax, even when you go on a holiday.
Yeah, so I mean, look, that's something you do learn, as time goes, just being available all the time. I mean, there were times where I missed a phone call. You call the surgeon back and, maybe he's already called another company or someone else that he trusts to support him. And, that's you actually wake up the next morning and you feel so bad because, what happens if you didn't get any help? You know what I'm saying? So it is something, difficult that you have to deal with. But at the same time, I think that's also why I'm kind of like the first point of contact for a lot of surgeons is because I don't miss those phone calls. Like if I do, I even feel bad myself. So a lot of them trust, me as a person because I'm always available. So, and I think that works well with football as well. Often, I'll be laying on the couch on a Sunday afternoon and I'll get a phone call from someone who's interested in playing. And I'll sit there and happily have like a 15-minute conversation with them about what's going on or how football is being played in South Africa. So it's also nice to, just be available all the time for football, but also it's the main reason is work. So yeah.
And if you don't answer one of those calls, it's not like, oh, just, it's a mistake. Be better next time. Like
No,
sometimes it's a case of life or death.
exactly, yeah. And that's what the surgeons really rely on some of us as clinical support, You're there for your customers, but also you're there for the patient. You're not only there to just, have your product ready and make a sale. You're actually there for a bigger cause, And that's why at the start, missing those one or two phone calls, like I knew about it. Like the surgeons would make not a big scene about it, but they would call the company, they'd speak to the bosses. It's a big deal to miss one of those phone calls. Like you said, could be life or death. Sometimes it's just, hey, I've got a list on Monday, speak to you later type of thing. But I mean, majority of the time, if they're calling, there's a reason why.
So it sounds like you really enjoy helping people.
Yeah. So I do. That's one thing I really enjoy is helping people and, also getting the best out of people. Even at work, sometimes it's you walk into theater, the surgeons are stressed, the sisters are running around the theater, or the nurses, should I say, running around the theater. And sometimes you walk in and it's just like you can see the relief in a lot of people's faces. That also seeing the fact that because I've walked in, they know help is here and I'm going to help out. Then I just join, kind of running around the theater, opening this, helping the surgeon here, putting the patient on the table, whatever it is that, the help is. But I really go that extra mile to help out. I mean, my job is not really to do that sort of thing. I'm there to, guide the doctor on the surgeons and support the surgeon, or sorry, on the surgery, but also using my products. So I can just stand back in the corner and just let it happen. But if you actually get involved and help everyone, it makes the workload a lot easier. And then, yeah, when it comes to football, just, seeing how football changes people's lives as well. Like I said, taking them overseas and, seeing the juniors, a lot of these guys don't even have food at home or that sort of thing. And they know they're going to have that, at football. We look after the guys, we give them waters, we give them lunch, so it's a nice feeling helping other people.
So I've got one last question for you today.
Yes.
It's actually gone by very quickly. What has sport taught you about life?
Sport taught me about life. A big thing is it's also like, being in the moment. Enjoy the moment you got with you because, especially with me, when I tore my ACL, I really thought that was the end of it for me. I didn't think I'd be playing sport again. But yeah, it's like, living in the moment, enjoying what you got. But at the same time, it's, also taught me that, sport's more than just a game. It's also, you know, like you try to build a brotherhood and, you try to build like a family. And, sometimes you're having a bad day and you turn up to the game and, you just see the smiles on other guys' faces and they're here to enjoy it. It's a nice feeling as well, if you've had a bad day and you walk out and everyone's enjoying themselves, it also brings up your mood. So yeah, but yeah, one thing that I've specifically learned, I'd say, is you gotta give your everything in the moment. Let's say that.
Tyler, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Mikey J.
One last thing, where can people find you if they're interested in, trying American football? Yeah, how can they reach out to you and how can they give it a go?
So I think the best point of contact will be Instagram. We do have a TikTok account, SAAFL, South African American Football League, but also we have Gridiron South Africa. That's kind of like the governing body for American football. So if you contact Gridiron South Africa or SAAFL, you'll be able to find us on Instagram. And all the numbers, all the emails, contacts are on our social media.